Most people who have seen my work know that I work traditionally using markers and pens, but what does it look like when a traditional artist attempts digital drawing? Hello everyone, it's Kara and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to show you exactly what it looks like when a traditional artist goes digital. Before I get too far into the video, I want to be straight with you all. I have done digital art before. However, I am not used to digital art, specifically the coloring side of digital art. When it comes to inking digitally, I've been getting a lot of practice in over the last few months because I have been creating a lot of coloring pages. And while we're on the topic of coloring pages, I'm going to do a shameless plug like YouTubers tend to do. If you are interested in my coloring pages at all, I do post several of them on Etsy. If you are interested in my coloring pages, I will leave a link to my Etsy in the description down below. Now, while I have been working on a lot of coloring pages over the last few months, most of them are not available on Etsy because they are being saved for a special project, which some of you have already guessed what it is. For those who don't know what it is or haven't guessed what I'm working on yet, well, I'm still not going to tell you, but if you figure it out, that'd be pretty cool. Alright, let me get back on topic for this video. Traditional artist going digital. When it comes to the sketching and inking phase, like I said, I have a lot of practice with that at this point, so it's pretty simple for me to get at least that part down. For sketching and inking, I've honestly been using the Clip Studio default brushes, specifically the design pencil for the sketching and the mechanical pencil for my inking. Those are the two brushes I've been using for now, but I did recently learn that you can make and download brushes, so I'm definitely going to be trying some downloadable brushes here in the future. To assist with speeding up my process, I did make a custom star brush, so I didn't have to draw a million stars over and over again. As much as I love drawing stars, it does take a little while, especially when there are a lot in my drawings. Alright, we're finally to the coloring stage, which is the stage of digital art that I am not very consistent in. I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know how to color quickly digitally, so if any of you have any advice out there, please help me out because the coloring took so long and I usually do things a lot quicker traditionally. Anyway, for the coloring, I did end up searching up some brushes. And seeing as I am a traditional artist who frequently uses alcohol-based markers, I thought it was only fitting that I used, well, an alcohol-based marker brush. And what better name to look up for these marker brushes than Copic? The reason why I decided to search Copic versus brands like ArtX or Ohuhu or Arteza is because Copic is probably the most known brand for alcohol-based markers. Previously, when I was attempting to color digital drawings using Clip Studio, I would use the mechanical pencil for the base, which I still do, and then I would use the design pencil for the shading and everything. And then there was the blending side of all that, so I'd get all of my shadows and everything down, and I would use that smoothing tool to blend all of my shadows and everything together, and it was almost too smooth. Not a good idea. It didn't look like my traditional art. And what I mean by that is when I am working traditionally, I usually use some harsher shadows in my drawings to kind of, I don't know, not make everything so smooth, and I was having a lot of difficulty pulling that off in a digital platform. That blending, smoothing tool was, or rather is, almost too powerful for my liking. I did end up lowering the settings on that tool so it wasn't as strong of a tool and it just lightly blended things together, which did help a lot, but it still wasn't giving me the effect I was going for. And that's where these Copic brushes come into play. As you can see me coloring here, I am using the Copic brushes just like I would a normal alcohol-based marker. I start off with my base color and then I slowly work to the darker values. But realistically, you could work backwards too. It's just I found that this is the best method for me because it's what I usually do anyway. All in all, for my first downloaded brush, I am super happy with this. I love how this brush works. It's a lot easier for me to use than any of the default brushes in the platform. so I'm probably going to be using this one for a little while. That being said, there might be a better brush out there, so I am willing to try other brushes, especially if any of you have recommendations. My biggest complaint with this particular brush is it doesn't really feel like an alcohol-based marker brush tip. With the traditional marker brush tips, you can get really fine lines and really thick lines or broad lines using the same nib of a marker. And with this brush on Clip Studio, you had to make the size of the brush smaller in order to get into these smaller details, which it was a little bit annoying, not gonna lie. So I guess that's something that I would like to look for. Like, I know you can change the size of the brush, but it really slows down the process when I have to go in and change it constantly to get the finer lines and details, if that makes any sense. That's enough about the brushes. I want to talk about this drawing a little bit. So I decide to deepen her skin color here. You can see. It was just a test more than anything at first, but I decided I really preferred the deeper complexion with the navy blue dress. Is that even navy blue? I call it navy blue. That's what I was going for. It might be a little bit lighter, but who cares? Basically, I liked the deeper skin color, so that's what I went with. I just know that people would point that out if I didn't mention it myself, so I'm mentioning it now. Yeah. Initially, I was going to go with a more crazy hair color, like a pink or a purple or something, but something in my head was telling me to go for a more golden color, and I'm really happy I did. I'm using a lot of blues and purples in this piece. Specifically, the line art later does become more of a purple color. I decided to try out a trick I saw on TikTok, which is where you duplicate the line art layer and you add a Gaussian blur. I think it's called Gaussian blur. I might be wrong. I don't know how to pronounce it. But you add that blur to the second copied line art, and it adds just this little extra oomph to your line art, and it looks so good. I love this. I love this tip. It was great, but I go a little bit more extra. I made another layer and I clipped that to my second Gaussian blurred line art layer, and I added a purple color to it. And once I added that purple to the line art, it was all over. It was decided that's what I was going to use for my line art. And it was that purple line art that ultimately made me decide to use gold hair, because the gold and the purple it looks so good together. It's something I need to use more in my artwork because I love the look of those two colors together. By the time it came time for me to color the ruffles of the skirt, I'll admit I was feeling a little over this drawing. I had already put so much time into the coloring process that I just didn't want to spend too much longer on it. In turn, the ruffles don't have quite as much detail as I would initially have put into them, but I still did a well enough job that I don't think it's really noticeable at all. The remainder of this drawing is mostly me just working on the smaller details, so you won't really see a whole lot changing on this until I get to the background. I did find some backgrounds and materials, so I did experiment a little bit with that, super briefly. I found a nighttime city backdrop. You saw it there, and I almost used it, but I was like, no, I don't want to use a pre-made thing. But I also didn't feel like spending too much more time on this drawing, so I was really conflicted. Ultimately, I ended up just deciding on this simple circle, which she could be turned into a sticker later pretty easily, which is really nice. Overall, I think this is the closest I have ever gotten to my digital art looking like my traditional art, but let me know what you all think. As always, I am also on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to support me on Etsy. See you in the next video. Bye!